So we will hold the public comment, and I'll probably, right before that meeting starts, I'll probably be asking you for a quick change to that agenda to add to, after the public comment, to add a new item, after that for any remaining discussion from the work session. And from there, to determine if we want to give any direction or not to staff on proceeding. So if that sounds okay to everybody for proceeding, and I'm seeing some nods, so for this work session, I will start with Ms. Herring, I suppose. Are you the one to start with?
Sure, yep, happy to. So as you know, we ran a request for proposals process. For 1 month that was open. We received 6 submissions. 4 of those teams were interviewed. This is of course for the city's purchase rights under the current contract that the city is under contract with the school district to purchase the former Westwood View property. And the successful team that was advanced by a 5-member resident-led review committee was Hunt Midwest and Finkel Williams. So they are here tonight to present their proposal to you all. Of course, they presented to Planning Commission last Monday. We've been receiving public questions. We've received 2 emails with public comment, I guess, or an opinion one way or the other about whether or not the city assigns the purchase rights. But the other emails that we have received really have just been inquiries. They've been questions, and so I've tried to address the questions that I can address in the meeting packet materials that are available online. And then there were several other questions, a lot of other questions about specifics with regard to the site development, the layout, architecture, things that are really Hunt Midwest's area. And so I'll let them share whatever they are able to share. I just want to reiterate where we are, what we are doing, what we're not doing tonight. Really, Hunt Midwest is not, this is not a site plan review. This is not a rezoning hearing. They know that part of the request for proposals and the assignment of the city's purchase rights really is that's all it is at this point. They have no land entitlements. They'd have to go through all planning and zoning public hearing processes later after successful closing on the property. And so they may not have all of the answers that the community is interested in at this time, but to the extent they feel that they can answer some of the questions, and I have forwarded all of them to them, they can address those. But it's really just been a month that they had to put together a proposal for this site, and it will take much longer to really investigate the site, the technical and geographical and geological factors there, and of course a public process to hear what the community wants and doesn't want, how they respond to the proposal when they get to that point, if they are assigned the contract and able to close on the property.
I do just want to highlight one thing you said, Ms. Herring, was that if you haven't reviewed the agenda packet, you can get those online. And I believe there are copies of the Planning Commission's presentation presented in there, the staff reports, and some of the additional questions and answers that you prepared. So I encourage you to go to the city's website to find those. Any initial questions before we welcome our guests? Council. Okay, I'm going to turn the floor over, sir, to Hunt Midwest. Would you welcome to the city of Westwood?
Thank you.
Know who you brought with you for the team, and we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Great, thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. My name is Brenner Holland. I'm Senior Vice President with Hunt Midwest, and I run our residential division. We're going to do a little presentation here, and then, like you said, we'll be glad to take questions from you, and however you want to do that, we'll follow your lead. I will do some quick introductions here, and then I'm going to let Ora Reynolds speak, and then I'll come back up. So, again, my name is Brenner Holland, Hunt Midwest, Senior Vice President. Also from Hunt Midwest is Ora Reynolds, who's our CEO and President. John Burkle, who's our Director of Residential Development. And then we have John Garr with Finkel Williams, who's got a lot of long time personal history in Westwood, and we appreciate him being on the team. And Judd Clausen with Phelps Engineering, one of the premier civil engineering firms in Johnson County, and done a lot of work around this whole area. So I feel we have a really good team to head into this project, and are really honored to be here. I want to thank Leslie for all the work she's put into this, the RFP, the taking the questions, getting the stuff back out to us. She's been organized and transparent. We really appreciate that, and know that we want to be the same way and feel like we're starting off a really good relationship there. And then to the selection committee and the planning and zoning commission, and a couple of council persons, Weimer and Harris, who've had to hear this a couple of times already. We appreciate it and hope it's not too redundant for you. So I'm gonna we'll go to the first slide here, and I'm gonna let Aura tell you a little bit about Hunt Midwest.
Thank you, Brenner. Thank you, Mayor, City Council members. I'm excited to be here. He doesn't usually let me out to come and speak anymore. Because he's got this. So Hunt Midwest is, most of you or many of you know, Kansas City-based ground-up real estate development company that the Lamar Hunt family started when we brought the Kansas City Chiefs to Kansas City back in the 60s. And hopefully you all will get out of here in time to see the first 2 episodes of the Kingdom docuseries that'll give a lot of history and legacy. So when you read headlines and all Kansas City based, when you read headlines, you read a lot about industrial self-storage data centers, but our core really was residential development. And the reason they let me out is I started a residential development company 32 years ago. Brenner and I have worked together for 20 years. You and I have worked together for 15, 18 years. So we've been doing this a long, long time. And we really do love residential. And we've touched so many different communities. We have developed over the last 32 years, we've developed 7,000 home sites. So we put, 20, 30, 40,000 people in different neighborhoods. We've done seniors housing, we've done multifamily, we've done build to rent, and we've touched so many different communities. People know us for the Northland, Kansas City's Northland, but we've done developments in Overland Park, in Lenexa, in Prairie Village, in Lee Summit, most recently in Rosedale. So pretty excited about what we've been able to do and really kind of the positive impact we've made on the communities, we've touched. And really, I know some of you, again, this is redundant and I apologize. But for us, what's really crucial to us is we really are at the core. What's important is the legacy that we have. So we're stewards of the Hunt family name, first and foremost. And we really are about what we call our 3 R's. So first of all, it's our reputation. We do what we say we're going to do. A lot of times we under promise and over deliver. So that reputation and what a headline looks like is really important to us. Resources, which I would say resources are 2 things. One is financial, and for you all, that is a certainty of closing on the site and a certainty that we will develop the best project that's best for the community and best for the site. So that's that side of the financial resources, and the other side is people resources. I have so many people on our team, like the folks here that have been with us 15, 20, 30 years, because we do the right thing. So that's resources and relationships. We're working again with Phelps and again with Bingo Williams. John and I go way, way back. So relationships are relationships with the cities we do business with. And I know that you went and checked with the people that we've done business with before. So it's the relationships with cities, it's relationships with our vendors, it's relationships with customers and our home builders, which we have this big, strong group of home builders we've been doing business with 30 plus years that we will go to and figure out who, truthfully, is best for this project. So I will stop talking so you guys will get home in time to watch The Kingdom, and I'm going to turn it back over to Brenner and appreciate the opportunity to be here. And I will leave you your stuff. There it is.
All right, we can go to the next slide. So we'll get into the kind of the heart of our submittal in response to the request for proposals. I don't need to tell you all where this site is, but it is the old Westwood View Elementary School site. It's about 4.97 acres to be exact, according to the surveys. What it is not is any part of Joe D. Dennis Park or the church site south of it. We've not contemplated anything on either one of those properties, and have only concentrated on what was put out for the RFP. And just really want to make that clear. We haven't asked, discussed, or anything about any of the rest of the properties out there. So you'll see this property or this layout And, it's a little different than most layouts you see around Kansas City. This is more of a neo-traditional, new urbanism type layout where we've tried to be a little bit less centered on the car and a little bit more centered on walkability and green space, while still achieving the density that we think we need to have to be able to take on a property like this with, relatively high land costs coming out of the school district and some of the carry costs and some of the things that we'll discuss down the road here. The design, which Finker Williams did a great job and Phelps Engineering helping us with, is centered around the green, and that's the pocket park that you see in the middle there. The green is really how the whole site is tied together. As you see it on the screen there, it's about 325 feet long. It's about 60 feet wide, almost 20,000 square feet, so almost half an acre. About 9% of the site just by itself within the sidewalks there of the park. We see this as a great place for just a good turf area, but also an open place that we can put lots of landscaping and maybe even develop some additional hardscapes that would lend to the landscape as we move forward. On the west side, very west side of the project, you see 5 single-family lots, single-family homes. This is the most traditional part of the whole design. It's those 5 homes with garages facing the public street there. Those lots, like the whole community, would be for sale, and we would have a builder or builders build those homes. They have kind of traditional parking spots in front, the driveways that could accommodate 2 to 4 cars, and then a 2 or 3 car garage would be standard in homes like this. On the green, you have kind of what we consider the more medium-sized villas with their front doors facing the actual sidewalks around the green. You can see that there are 18 units there. It's a little hard to tell here, but there are 6 twin villa buildings and 2 triplex buildings. The 2 triplex buildings are the 2 kind of larger squares in the middle, again, fronting on that green. And then there's 6 larger twin villa buildings facing the 2 public streets, the existing 50th Street on the very north side and what would be a new public street on the south side. Again, front doors facing those public streets to be active to the community and front that way. Kind of the unique different feature here that doesn't happen a lot in Kansas City. It does happen in some other places, but we also have 2 alleyways, which we are calling lanes on this plan. And those 2 alleyways come from the public streets and tie back to a public street, which we thought was important. Because one of the things we want to do is keep the trash cans, the service type deliveries, that sort of thing, and those garage doors off of those alleys and not off the public streets. So we think we can get a really good facade along 50th Street and then along the new public street. The new public street runs north to south and then east to west, ties from 50th back to 51st Street. Might be a little bit redundant to have 2 tie-ins there, but we did feel it was important for overall traffic flow for the neighborhood. And at times when like the school district's in session and people are using 51st Street, there'll be a way out and help alleviate some traffic down to 50th Street. I mentioned earlier, but I kind of want to reiterate, everything we're looking at here is we propose to be for sale. And we also propose that it will be maintenance provided with lawn and landscape care, snow removal, the taking care of the existing of the exterior facades and roofs for the villas. The single family homes would be on their own for their own maintenance of their home, but on any attached project, it would be maintenance provided. We'll talk about a lot of numbers and things here, and it's still really early, but preliminary estimates for us is that these homes are going to be in the $1 million to $1.5 million range on the single family homes, and the villa homes will be somewhere in the 800,000 to maybe up to $1.2 million range in price. Ideally, the villas will have varied floor plans as well. Between the kind of the larger ones that front the public roads, and then some of the little bit smaller sized ones that are on the green. Really hoping to get units with primary bedrooms down, some offices. Most likely everything here will have basements, and so some finished basements. as we get into developing the final architecture and the plans for each of those buildings. And then we're very big about landscaping, and you can kind of see on that plan, it's a little hard at this range to see it, but lots of trees. That's one thing that the green does. Gives you the opportunity to plant lots of plants there, perennials, annuals, and then, like I said, some potential hardscape and other landscapes. One of the other things that's come up in our presentations is, how do you maintain this stuff? How do you manage the community? And we really think the only mechanism for that, and all of our years of experience, is a homeowners association. So I know there's not a lot of homeowners associations in Westwood. Might be something fairly new being introduced, but it really is an integral part of how the community is managed and how it continues to look good, and how the homeowners are assured that their property values and their maintenance will be taken care of. HOAs get a lot of bad press in movies and sometimes in the newspaper and things, but generally, we've found we've created over 20 of them in master planning communities across the city, and they are there's much more good than bad. It's the mechanism for how you take care of, like, the green, how you make sure the sprinklers work, the irrigation is proper, that the lawns get cut, the shrubs get pruned, and the trees get taken care of. But more importantly, for the attached product, it's also the mechanism that allows for the maintenance of the exterior of the buildings and the roofs when these are all shared. It also allows those homeowners to build a reserve for down the road if the lanes need to be taken care of, if there needs to be a pothole repaired, a roof repaired, the exterior of a building repaired. The homeowners can build a reserve to make that happen as they move forward. Most jurisdictions, when you do new home communities around Kansas City, require HOAs, and it is for a reason. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. Kind of the 800-pound gorilla on this site is the old growth trees that are there. If we're going to get this density, there are going to be some trees that have to come out. And we will work with staff and work with the stakeholders as we take ownership of the property. The school gets out of there to really see what's there. Where possible, we'll accommodate those trees in the plan, but it is something that to be able to do this plan, we'll have to take some trees out. We're committed to planting a lot of trees back in place, but just everything we do, we want to make sure that we're upfront with people on how we're going about it. Why don't we go to slide 4, if you don't mind? Thank you. This really just one back. Yeah, kind of just really shows the connectivity. One of the things that as Finkel-Williams was starting the layout on this, we really wanted to make sure that we were connected to the neighborhood and not just standing alone here. You all know that with the elementary school up there, there's a lot of people that get out and walk. And with that green, we really wanted to connect our whole neighborhood to the park. And you can see here that does really, from the single family homes all the way over to the park, have really good connectivity from a pedestrian standpoint. And then also to the existing public streets around the neighborhood. Anywhere you want to go, you should be able to get to on foot or bike really easily, and by car it's easy as well. We have a project in North Kansas City called Northgate Village. It's a neo-traditional project as well. It's got alleys. It's one of the first in Kansas City that kind of started building back in that form. It also has attached product. It has row homes and patio homes and single family homes, and the sidewalks and that connectivity is really what makes it special, along with the pocket parks. One of the things there that's really important to them is that they have kind of walk to school days, and they call it a walking school bus too, where all the families kind of come out at the same time in the morning and they head to school, and then that is only allowed with that parking. The north-south public road too, that will be designed to city standards. We'll work with your engineering group to make sure that occurs. We're very open to doing some traffic calming, some other ways to make sure that this is just not a speedway, a cut-through road from one area to another. That can include bump outs. It can include traffic tables. I personally envision a traffic table that happens kind of right across the park, by the single family over there. Whereas you come north-south in the community, you hit that table, you kind of have to slow down, and then you can come back out of it. But all that, the stuff that will be studied in much more detail after we take ownership of the property. So we can go to slide 5.
Hold on, can I interrupt you?
Sure.
Is this, I know it's gonna be hard to perceive, is this the Northgate Village come along?
That's one of the pocket parks at Northgate Village, yes.
So I mean, it looks a little bit like the green. So the Hunt Midwest KC.com, it looks like there's a link there to find the Northgate Village. Would kind of show some of those photos. I
Right.
just wanted to, if people wanted to look that out, since you had mentioned it, I'll mention that.
Good, thank you. So, this slide, is, Finkel Williams is a really good architect, and they did not just design a white box out here. It was, I thought, a brilliant idea to show perspective and show scale, because we had a limited amount of time to respond to the RFP. And because, we wanted to have a lot of collaboration with the neighborhood and with the stakeholders, this is an element that allows us to show, hey, these buildings are gonna be 2 stories. They're not 3 stories, they're not 4 stories, they're not gonna overwhelm the neighborhood. And then as we have some of that stakeholder inputs, we can start informing this architecture to what we want it to be. We've done a lot of walking around, driving around, taking pictures throughout Westwood. There's some elements that we know we're gonna wanna get into this community. A lot of big gable ends facing the street, a lot of stone, a lot of brick, front porches, covered porches, and both screened in as well. And want to make sure that we're able to incorporate that. We didn't want to really be presumptuous and set the tone without doing that early. So that's what these white boxes represent. This is looking northeast from across 51st Street or 50th Street, I'm sorry, looking down what would be the front row of those buildings. The other thing that's important in this environment is we want to get the building really as reasonably close to the street as we can to be activating that street. We've had some input that people might be interested in seeing front porches on these units. Definitely something that we could accommodate and consider as we move forward. Let me go to the next slide. So this is the perspective, like if you were standing on the west side in one of the single family homes on their front porch and looking straight down the green at the villas, twin villas, and then triplexes that would be further down. You kind of see the scale of the buildings in relationship to that green area. We call them pocket parks in Northgate Village, and that's a fairly common name for these kind of parks. From this area here, you can look straight through and you can look over the Jody Dennis Park straight to the east there. So a lot of opportunity here for additional landscaping, like we said. Also for programming this park to work with events that may be happening in Jody Dennis Park, whether that's some sort of farmer's market or things, whatever you all are working on. Again, the homeowners association, you can coordinate that. You can see a row of tents running down here that had some art in them or some other events. You can see little carnival games or things going on as well in this park. We'll go to slide 7. And again, the architecture, we almost didn't put an architecture slide in there. We just felt, we really wanted to reflect the quality of what we're looking for in this community. We talked about some of these price points. You don't get there without proper materials, proper attention to detail. A lot of these communities, really the detail is what makes the difference. It's the railings, it's the porches, it's the detailing under those. How do you tie the soffit to the face of the building? And we've got a really good group that can help make sure that we do that. We'll go to slide 8. I know this is really, for the audience, probably really hard to see. It's pretty basic. When you look at the top there, that is essentially the purchase prices of the land from the school district. And again, Leslie has been very good about pointing out that in this process right now, what we're doing is asking you to assign the Shawnee School District contract to us. And we're saying in exchange for that, we're willing to pay the full price that you have under contract, which is the $2,650,000 plus the $560,000 that they have included in the later amendments for the carry cost, which includes some true like interest and carry costs and some utility bills. It also includes the $400,000 for the demolition of the existing school. And so we'll cover that. And we've also then said we would pay the $285,000 that was identified in the RFP as some carry costs that the city has outside of that. So that $285,000 would go to the city of Westwood. The $3.2 million would go to the Unified School District.
And the 285 is essentially the 50/50 rainbow payoff.
That's exactly what it is, the exact amount for our final principal and interest payment.
I feel like I have to clarify, that's whatever you want it to be from us. We have no involvement with the 50/50 rainbow site, and just want to make sure, just as general public, I've kind of heard a little bit of rumor that maybe that's a buying of that property, and that's, nothing could be further from the truth. We're not touching that property and no plans to, as we move forward, so. We talked a little bit about what happens after the closing, and I think Leslie's done such a good job with that. We will have a neighborhood engagement. We're committed to that. It's something we feel is important for the project, before we do any kind of application to the city. So we'll hold a meeting. We'll probably ask to borrow one of these rooms here. We'll put up some easels. We'll put up some of the architecture that we think would fit, and we'll give people some stickies, and we'll have a kind of a collaborative session where we can talk about what these buildings want to look like, and some of the fine tuning that goes into it. We'll then create the applications and the plans to come in for to meet your entitlement process, and that's usually, the preliminary plat, a final plat. And in this case, we also have to rezone the property to do this kind of density. So we'll work with staff and find out all the rules and make sure that we're in line there. We'll make that application and then go through the public hearing process where people will have an additional ability to weigh in. So we're set to do all that. I think one of the things that's important here is that the city has risks that you're choosing a partner here. You're going to sign this contract. We're going to take that land, and we have that land, and you're not approving what we have here. So the risk is, from your standpoint, is that you got to pick the right partner that's going to come in and do what they say they're going to do. Our risk is that we don't have entitlement assurance. So we're going to buy a property thinking that we can move forward, with something like this, but we don't have that real approval. So it's a two-way street, and I think we're really looking forward to it and hope that we can come out of this with the ability to work together to make this happen. We've got some other numbers on there, kind of talking about the price points that I've already discussed. This is it's a $34-35 million project when it's all said and done. Ora mentioned it, but we're ready to write the checks that we need to write right now, just out of cash. If we need to have somebody involved on the debt side to take the buildings forward, we've got great relationships with some of the best banks in Kansas City. Banks like UMB and Commerce and Security Bank in Kansas City. So just don't see that really being an issue as we move forward. We'll talk a little bit more about time and how we think this would come together. We've tried to be pretty conservative, but we might actually jump to the next slide. There's some bubbles there that kind of summarize it a little bit better. The school district contract calls for a diligence period that goes through October and a closing in late November of this year. And so we're prepared to do that if this process allows us to. So we close then, and then really after the holidays, we would start that neighborhood engagement where we, make sure everybody got away a little bit, and we come back in and start that neighborhood engagement, move that into the entitlement and zoning process, which we think will take probably through, a good 2 or 3 quarters of 2026. If that's all approved, then we move into the actual construction drawings, the final plans for the civil engineering. Also during that time, Ora mentioned, we'll be choosing our builder partner. We want to bring that builder partner on as early as possible to help them inform a lot of our decisions as we go through those entitlements. And then you get into the civil construction, all your rough grading, you're building your streets, putting the utilities in, the water and sewer and power and all that. I think that's going to take probably the end of 2006 and into 2007, where we'd be ready to then start construction, permit and start construction on the homes themselves. 3 to 5 years is what we're guessing it's going to take to build out the homes on the site in a really good market and the right contractor. We'll try to move that up closer to the 3-year. Market slows down and might drag out a little bit longer, but you all know as well as I do, these first ring suburbs that you're a part of are very popular right now. There's a tremendous market for being here, and so we're really excited about that, and I think that'll go well. When it comes to selling the units, we usually we've been working with Reese Nichols New Homes to sell those units. And they have just a, great technology and a great way to get this product in front of people. That doesn't mean that, as we get down there, it could be a different real estate company, but that's who we've used in the past and would lean toward using right now. And that would be augmented by our own in-house, professional marketing group. So that's kind of the plan going forward. Mayor, up to you if you want to have questions right now, or if we
Yeah, council, any questions for the team right now? Get started. I'll kick one off then, as you guys all think of something. Mentioning the HOA, and I think I know the answer to this, but just for the benefit of everyone. They generally hire a management company of some kind to tell them what the reserves need to be to make the arrangements with landscapers and all those types of things. It's not like the HOA is directing all that. Is that very typical that they would hire
Absolutely.
a professional management company then?
On our bigger communities, we almost exclusively use First Service Residential, but there are many others that do that. You think about so part of like the dues of the HOA, there's usually a yearly dues for everybody there. And then anything that's under full maintenance, like the villas, probably pay a monthly dues as well. So they process all those checks, they make sure that people are paying on time. They help with things like you said, like reserve studies. And then they help really coordinate the communication from the board of directors to the individual neighbors.
Council. Question for the Huntington West team.
All right, I guess I'll go second then, if I may. Thank you very much for being here. I
Thank you.
appreciate your proposal. I'm also appreciative of anyone who proposed on the site, given that, we didn't give you a lot of time to come up with something and balance what you would, show versus just concepts and, develop everything completely later. I wanted to confirm a couple of things. Hopefully these are pretty easy questions. Just get it out there and confirm it. So your proposal is not requesting the use of any tax incentives for your benefit on the site.
Well, that's a softball, yeah. Absolutely, no, this is all private funding. Completely, no TIF, no other incentives.
But you are open to the city potentially utilizing incentives for public improvements adjacent to the site if we decide to do that.
Yeah, and we would cooperate with that in whatever means we needed to. The more improvements that are on the park, the better. I mentioned the Northgate Village project. It sits next to Mackin Park, which is fully developed and is an amenity for the community as much as anybody's.
And then the public infrastructure that's on the site, you said the lanes will be private, they'll be HOA controlled, but the street itself would be ultimately public. However, you would be installing that, building it out, and then turning that over to the city once it was ready to go.
Right, so Phelps Engineering would do the designs, it'd be reviewed and approved by your public works or city engineer, however that function is done. Here in Westwood, yeah, we would put them all in and then and turn those over to the city.
Just to hammer the point home, the cost of installing that
It's all on Huntington West, yeah.
Then, so those are the softball, easy answer, yes or no questions. I know it is well in advance of when an ultimate design is going to be able to be shared or certainty, but could you provide us some examples or reference of something that would show the kind of like design style quality level of other products that you would envision this being similar to? We know that we'll have a range in their mind of a villa or townhouse. And those can be extremely luxurious and they can look cheap sometimes. So is there something that you could kind of give us a comparison to that people could go look at?
I think I kind of got slapped on the hand for saying it, but I mean, I think that the goal would be toward Meadowbrook type duplex twin villas that are there. It'd be somewhere in between our Northgate Village project and that, as we like to, look at, like you said, the crystal ball and how the design comes about. We did try to show a little bit of architecture there. And I think that, for us, it's important that it does reflect the Westwood, the neighborhood. And that we pull in some of those things. There's a lot of good brick and stone and wood. And I think that's where that details would come from, is from the neighborhood.
Then last question for you for now is, again, I know that the site layout and design cannot be complete and may change depending on what you hear, as well as what you find from, core samples or things like that. Have you done enough due diligence? You feel you've done enough due diligence that if it works out, something like this layout would work? Or do you not know necessarily, we may have to shift where this street goes because of the grade change or something?
No, that's why we've had our, professional, people here with us and kind of involved early on. Yeah, they're definitely when that school comes down and we see what the topo is and how that's left. That's kind of a guess right now, even the demolition plans that were provided to us just basically say, take the school out, finish grade and seed it. You don't get a lot of input out of that. I know these schools have big basements usually. We feel like we get very close to this plan though, based on the topography all around and how we think it's gonna turn out. One of the things, you may know, we're talking about full basements here, so we can make some grade change up with basement. You can make grade changes up with, retaining walls that don't look like a big concrete retaining wall, but they're stone walls or stone faced and look really nice. So that's the kind of adjustment that will probably have to occur, but we want to put a plan in front of you if we didn't think it was feasible for sure.
Council? Questions? For staff or for?
I know you've heard from me a lot.
Yeah, that's good.
But, I'm curious, following up with what Mr. Ingram said, is there room on, and if you don't know, that's okay.
Mhm.
But is there room on size of units? Like, is there a viable project for you if some of the units were smaller in square footage?
Mhm. I think so, to a certain degree, to get the prices, and I think we talked about it a little bit in a couple of these meetings, but the land cost alone, if we had 35 units out here, is gonna be $100,000 per door. That's before anything we talked about, putting the streets in, the utilities and that sort of thing. So you have to get to a certain price point to be able to absorb that land and utilities and infrastructure costs. Getting to that price point requires certain things. It requires quality. It requires square footage, is really what the market's gonna demand. So yes, there is some flexibility, and that's one of the reasons we've heard kind of some good and bad about the triplex units. But we feel like maybe the interior unit of the triplex unit, maybe that's a little smaller, a little bit more attainable than some of the others. As reflected on the plan, those are just boxes right now, and we have the ability to move those up and down. If you really examine the square, they're way bigger than what will be put out there. So yeah, as the design comes together, there will be some variation.
Roland, I don't want to put you on the spot too much on this, but speaking as the numbers of your costs going in, 5 acres, can you ballpark a going rate in Johnson County on others? I mean, is this well in excess of what you've seen in others? I mean, is this a high entry cost compared to?
It really is hard to answer because of where, right? I mean,
Yeah.
just in Johnson County, if you're out in, what used to be southern Oklahoma, but now it's, they're building 199th and Metcalf and State Line is, property out there is going for 60,000-70,000 an acre, which is really expensive compared to like the Northland we've been building. But if
So
you
that's $350,000.
right,
In off ground.
right.
Okay.
As you pull into the inner rings and your suburbs, the difference there is it grows really fast. If you found 5 acres in North Leawood, it would probably be fairly comparable to what we're talking about. So it varies depending on, so many things.
Very good.
I will say most of the product that we've had with this kind of price point, we have developed multifamily. And that's not what we intend to do here at all, so.
That's all. That's some time. I'm gonna try to buy you some time.
I was kind of wondering if after the presentation by Midwest, if we talked a little bit more with questions directed towards staff about the process, or maybe the.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we can use that time now, as well, if we have some questions.
I'm glad to
We
step
can
back
take
up with
Mr.
you.
Holland, give him a seat for a little bit. If we have more questions for that team directly.
Okay,
But, yeah. And again, as I said, you know, to the extent we have to run, we have more, I'm gonna call for it at the very beginning of the public comment for us to have more time.
right.
For things as well.
So, I'll kick off the question about the process, and I wanna make sure that these members of the public that are here are aware. We really hammer this point home, the decision that's gonna be in front of us in the next month and a half is not, a particular project. It is not approving entitlements, it is not approving a design. It is simply, are we going to assign our contract to Hunt Midwest? We're gonna assign the contract to someone else if we decide to do that, or are we gonna terminate our contract? So that is what will be in the next month now. Now, of course, what we're seeing is informing that decision, but ultimately it is to take that action, not to approve a project, not to be married to a specific design. And although I know that's part of what most people care about. So I would just ask if, Holly or Jeff, as people who are in on this process, if you could speak a little bit to, what it was about the Hunt Midwest proposal that made it stand out in your mind as the team to pick, since you were the two that have seen these.
Well, I could start if you want.
Go ahead.
Follow up. We saw some really incredible proposals. This was actually really hard. This was hard. We saw some really creative thinking. So truthfully, I had to look at, okay, my personal preferences are gonna go over here, and I'm gonna look at what we asked for in the request for proposals, and Hunt Midwest just really quickly rose to the top. And I mean, that's a very simple answer, but honestly, that is my response to that question. It wasn't, hey, what's your favorite? Which one do you like the looks of? It was, we had very clear, lined out in the request for proposals, what we were tasked to evaluate. And they were at the top. So oversimplified answer, that's my answer.
Well, you know, I read the staff report on this, and I'm not gonna speak for Jeff or for you, Holly. You know, some of the things that stood out to me, at least that were referenced as comments from the review committee, included the professionalism, the experience, the diversity in housing types, which has been a goal of the city, the strong financial benefit to the city, such as, you know, paying off for the 50/50 rainbow, and probably the highest confidence in their ability to close and deliver on the project. Things that at least stood out to me on the staff report. Do you have anything you'd like to add?
Oh, yeah. So, I'm sorry, Jason, I can't speak a little, I have to speak a lot. It's a great question, and we were either gonna kind of have this conversation in council in 45 minutes for now, so I'm happy to have it now. So let me talk about mostly my thinking and decision-making process, but also the committees. So as Holly just said, and this is in the RFP, there were 6 criteria that the committee used to think about the 6 submissions. Alignment with city objectives and public interest, track record of similar projects, financial feasibility and public benefit, transparent team structure and experience, responsiveness to site and context, other factors deemed relevant. I read those all to you because each one of those came into play. So, and I might actually differ from Holly a little bit. At different moments during the discussion, it's like all 6 were kind of sliding bars, like some were moving up, some were moving down. And it's because a lot of these criteria balance against each other. So, for example, and Hunt just kind of talked about this. So this proposal is, I think, 35 front doors and a mix of single family home and 2-3 villas. I believe 2 of the proposals were only single-family homes. And they were maybe 20 front doors and 22 front doors. So one person could say, aha, I wanted only single-family homes. That's what I wanted. Okay, but as you just explained, well, that means the price point for all those homes are probably all going to be 1, 2, 1, 4, 1, 5 million. So the price point just went further out of reach of more people. And part of, I think, benefit to the city is to continue to think about helping people age in place, age in Westwood. So we've also talked a lot about housing. A couple of years ago, we did the Communities for All Ages initiative, and one of the key things that came out of there, and one of the key things we continue to hear about is how do we help people stay in Westwood? Now, is an $800,000 townhome in the reach of every person in Westwood? No. But it's available to more than only a 1.4 million single family home. So there's one balance. I didn't get all single family homes, but I got a set of price points that open up Westwood to more people, including people who already live in Westwood. Number of doors. So 20 single family homes led to less tax revenue for the city. And so if your interest is higher tax revenue for the city, so we have more funds to work with, well, then that tilts it back in favor of a higher number of doors. Something we haven't talked about yet, but I know is on a lot of people's minds, is this proposal comes with the concept of an HOA. And we do not have an HOA in Westwood, we never have. And that gave several of us a little pause because we thought, well, wait a minute, like this introduces a new dynamic. I don't know what I think about that. And so maybe I don't like that. But back to the diversity of the product, you kind of can't have maintenance provided properties without some mechanism to take care of all that. So wait a minute, well, but then that makes me back in favor of this because again, it's offering a product that I think the city has expressed interest in. Going to tilt over to kind of the team's ability. So all 6 of these developers have the misfortune of presenting in Westwood, which is just up the street on Shawnee Mission Parkway from the Mission Gateway development, which is frankly, a squandered opportunity for more than a decade. It's been off the tax rolls. It is utterly unproductive land. So one of the things that our 2 committee members from Planning Commission and the committee member from the foundation helped us zero on in is what is each team's kind of demonstrated ability to execute on this project? And so one of the other proposals that I liked a lot, and was probably my number 2, after we started asking them questions about their ability to execute on the project, we realized they've done some great projects. One of them was a massive commercial rehab that looks fantastic, but they had not done a project like this. And so even though I really liked what they were showing us, then they slid back down because I thought, I'm getting nervous that they don't have the relationships with builders in place. They don't have relationships with real estate agents in place. They don't have the experience of working with cities to get through a process to plot lands. I got nervous that they wouldn't be able to execute and we would be sitting at a hole in the ground 4 years later. One of the other elements is the ability to just close on the land. And so 2 of the firms, one of them being Hunt, demonstrated a really strong ability to be able to close on the land. One of the other ones that I really liked, and here's the moment where I'm going to tell you why I'm not saying the names. As someone said earlier, in these committee meetings, they were sharing very sensitive financial information, and it would be inappropriate for us to say their name. So here's why. One of the other firms that I liked a lot was transparent with the city, and I'm glad they were, that when they were assigned the purchase agreement, they were probably going to negotiate with Shawnee Mission School District on either the purchase price or a mechanism to pay for the property over time. So I appreciate that they were transparent about that.
I do want to just, it was
correct
the
me.
carrying costs.
Oh, the carrying costs, I'm sorry.
It was only the carrying
I'm
costs.
sorry.
Okay.
But that raised the specter of, well, wait a minute, what if it's December and negotiations, the now private negotiations between this other firm and the district were collapsing, and we've gone to all this trouble for naught? I think the last thing I want to talk about is the responsiveness to the site. So again, another one I really liked in general, had pretty good benefit to the city, but we're not really thinking about where they were. And so if you were standing in Joe Dennis Park and you looked at their development, you'd see a bunch of trash cans and a bunch of back doors. And I thought, you're not really paying attention to where you are. Another one of them, I think it might have been one that was only single family homes, had an entry to the neighborhood on 50th Street, but it was just a cul-de-sac. And I thought, wait a minute, that starts to feel like a very exclusive kind of enclave type neighborhood, not a neighborhood that's going to encourage people to walk through it, to drive through it, to kind of blow through it. So I'm trying to convey to you that if there's anything about this that you love or hate, like great, but there's like 20 other things to try to think about to get to a conclusion. I think the last thing I'll say is, so back to those 6 criteria, the committee had a sheet and we thought carefully and scored, and that helped us, from 6 interview 4, and from 4 come to 1. So, like I said, wasn't going to talk a little, it's going to talk a lot, but that is kind of a very, very in-depth discussion of kind of the process and what led us to this. Actually, no, crap, I do have one more thing. As you just said, Jason, and Hunt actually said it earlier too. So the decision in front of us isn't to decide on a particular project. The decision is, do we assign this purchase agreement to some other organization? And so one of the considerations was, is this organization demonstrating they're going to be able to work with us for the next 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 years? So a big factor in this is, what is their partnership model look like? What does their relationship model look like? And that really stood out.
Leslie, I've got a couple of questions, because I think we need to tie this, and part of the difficult job we have is that we do try to get a lot of community input, and then sometimes, the input doesn't match the options available. As part of the RFP, the city had sent out a community feedback survey, and one of the questions was, what would you like to see on this site? And, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm gonna ask it anyways. The top response was parks, trails, and open green space. Did anyone submit an RFP response to buy the property and turn it completely into a park, open green space?
No,
The next top response was community spaces. Did anybody submit an RFP to buy the park and turn it into a community space?
no,
Then the next was retail or restaurants. I don't know, was there a commercial application at all?
not planned for the school site. One of the proposals did contemplate using a part of 50/50 for commercial use, but none of them proposed using it on the school site.
Okay. So those were the, it was kind of interesting, housing was actually number 4 on the list, but all the proposals that we received were for housing.
Yes.
Jason?
I don't want to take Andrew or Laura's chance to speak, but I will.
We'll have more time to.
Okay, well, I do want to say, after Jeff's discussion, I want to say, an RFP for a development site is not the same as soliciting bids for a street repaving or putting out a bid to buy police cars, things like that. there is no right or wrong on this, there is no black or white answer. It is weighing the several factors that may slide past each other, and everybody's gonna have different weights to those factors. But an RFP is not a magic solution to determining what is the right answer. That takes people and people of Westwood are the people who make that decision. But there is not a right or wrong out of this, and there's no answer that will satisfy everyone.
I'm sorry, we can do
I'm
that.
done.
You know, I mean, I'll add to that. I think there are fair questions on that, but, I think what you're saying is there certainly is an element of subjectivity to a lot of this. And, but this is also why we have a city administrator, why we have our professional staff, John, chief, to make these kinds of reviews and recommendations, for us. In this case, our professional staff bolstered its review with 2 members of the governing body, 2 members of the planning commission, 1 member of the foundation, all of whom, those are all Westwood residents. John's a Westwood resident. And of course, we also had help in reviewing financial data from from the city's financial advisor. So we don't put, as the council, every, decision to a referendum, and even on this one, there's a lot of work to do still on this. As Jeff, rightly pointed out, we don't publish people's personal financial information, in that way for them to see. And we're also not here tonight to trash other proposers or to, put down others, or anything like that. But I also don't think we're here to do the committee's work necessarily all over either. If we were here to do that, then why would we have had the professional staff and our planning commissioners and our city council members invest that time in the first place? I mean, we knew that going into this. We trust that our fellow council members, that our fellow planning commissioners, our staff, our professional advisors, that they know the contractual situation that we're in. That they understand the land use and the financial issues at play. We trust that they know the surveys, they've read the surveys. That they know the plans and the studies that have been done, that they know and they read the community input. And, we trust that, they ask all the right questions. And that they do the best they can to make a recommendation to us then. So I do want to thank Jeff and Holly for serving, on that committee, and making this recommendation. We are running up on our time here. So again, I want to remind everybody that we're going to close here this work session. Call to order the regular session. We'll go through a couple administrative items, then we'll open it up for public comments. And then we'll have the opportunity for more discussion, council, questions for staff if you have as well. And then we can determine whether or not we have any direction to give staff. So with that, I will close this meeting